You're listening to the Salty Sex Cast with Mariah and friends. Minimize the fear. Expand your awareness.
Welcome back, everyone, and hello to all of our new listeners. I am Mariah, and I'm the host of Salty Sex Cast. A little bit about me. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach and a certified health education specialist who just is really curious and wants to know all the answers. So I invite friends on the show and we chat and we have a lot of fun just looking at some of the things that are around sex, sexuality, intimacy, relationships. A lot of those things maybe we didn't get the education we wanted or needed, and we want it now. So today I have Dr. Lyndsey Harper joining me, and I'm really excited because her mission really started with very similar reasons my mission started, and it was just that gap. So welcome, Lyndsey. Thank you for joining me. And, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, so we all get to know you a little bit more.
For sure. Thank you so much, Mariah. I'm so excited to be here. So as you mentioned, my name is Lyndsey Harper. I am a board certified OBGYN. So I was in private practice. I'm here in Dallas, Texas. And I was really noticing that a lot of the patients that I was taking care of were having trouble with sexual health questions and problems. And I didn't even really know the answers as a women's health physician. So got really obsessed with the area and actually founded a company called Rosy, dedicated to serving women when it comes to sexual health questions, problems, and connecting them with the resources they need. So started that about 3.5 years ago, and am a mother of three, and I still practice a little bit as a hospitalist. So I'll go in and deliver some babies and do some surgery every once in a while because I love doing that as well. So all things women's health, that's my jam, and especially women's sexual health because it's such a missing sort of glaring piece that doesn't get taught to us as physicians and us as women generally. So I'm excited to kind of chat all about it with you here today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you're exactly right. Women's sexual health is like, wait, what? Women have problems with their sexual health. And even like all the ED commercials I hear on the radio and everything that's there, I'm just like, what about us? Where's our blue pill? I don't really want one. I'm glad I don't always need one, but I still want the availability for something.
Totally.
Who do I go to? Who do I ask? I mean, besides our girlfriends when we're having a couple drinks on girls' night,
Exactly.
I don't have that conversation often.
Nobody does. And that's what's so infuriating about it because everywhere we look, we know, that and I was actually just having a conversation about this. Maybe the men's sexual health resources aren't designed how we might ideally design them, but at least they're there. You know what I mean? At least they know they can talk to their internist, they can talk to their urologist, they can talk to their family medicine doctor. They know that there are 26 FDA approved medications for men's sexual health. All kinds of procedures covered by even Medicare for men's sexual health problems.
Wow.
And when we look at the field for women, there are no specialties trained for women's sexual health problems, right? That's my question to gynecologists always. I'm like, if it's not us, then who is it? There's nobody else. It's us. We have to be the ones to do this. And there's 2 FDA approved medications for women's sexual health problems, neither of which, have great efficacy. And, there's so many things that women need in terms of just understanding. So the basic research and then development as well. So what are the pharmacological agents that can really help? What are the procedures that can really help? How can we create an ecosystem for both men and women to really support a holistic, lifelong journey towards a positive relationship with sex and with sexual health? So that's really what I'm all about. And it's infuriating the lack of resources that we have currently.
Yes. And, if you try to do a Google search, they're either really basic or they go back to do your Kegels. Like,
right. Wow.
Communication or Kegels. That's all I get. Like
that's what
it's
we get.
Very limited.
I know.
And very obscure. And then it almost becomes that snake oil,
Exactly.
gimmicky, or you're trying to treat my things just like you would treat a male. Like, let's increase your blood flow. And I'm like, I don't have
Right.
blood flow issue.
That's not what
I
it is.
maybe have a body image issue, but it
Right.
comes out in a sexual way where intimacy is hard for me. And I can't, and getting excited is difficult because maybe my internal image just isn't there and I'm not connected with my body.
Right.
But who knows that unless you live in this world of
Right.
female sexuality?
Unless you're able to untangle it, right? And that's, I hear all the time that, oh, women's sexuality, it's so complicated, but that's people use that as an excuse, which makes
Mm,
me irritated because it's like, actually, sexuality in general, like it's not just women who are complicated, like sexuality in general is complicated, and
oh
that's
yeah.
okay. That's what makes it beautiful, right? Like that's not a problem, that's an opportunity. And so for us to say it's complicated and therefore we're not going to do anything about it, I think is such a cop out. And I'm so over it. I think for us, as like whenever I think of, the company that I lead, I'm like, the fact that it's complicated is really cool because it gives us 1,000 angles, through which to talk about it and through which to help people and specifically women with it. So if it is body image, if it is like an actual structural physiological issue, if it is a relationship opportunity, if there is a communication gap, if there are, need for pelvic floor physical therapy, like that's cool that there's so many ways to kind of think about it and tackle it. And I think that we have the opportunity now through more personalization of, the way that we offer interventions through things like what you do through coaching and through digital health, that we can really make a dent in those things where, maybe when all of this stuff was happening in the office before one-on-one with a physician or a therapist, like that's just not that accessible to most people. So I think the fact that a lot of healthcare is, hopefully it's not there yet by any stretch of the imagination, but trending towards democratization, I think lends itself to a little bit, more leeway to tackle sexual health issues.
Mm-hmm. And then it becomes who I'd rather have 10 resources that I'm like, who do I start with?
Right. Yeah.
Then I have no clue. And I feel like I'm going to be bounced around to a specialist, or
Right.
now the whole doctor's office knows what's going on because they're like, I can't answer that. Let me go get the nurse. Let me go get this,
Right.
and the educator and all of these. And it's hard. And our medical system is not built to have some of those conversations that take some time and a
Right.
lot of patience. Let's say I'm comfortable talking about sex. Let's
Right.
first start there.
Yeah,
'Cause that's the
exactly.
one. And then I bring it up to my doctor. We're in an, I'm like, hey, you know what? I've noticed my libido is really low. It's not normal for me. What should I do? That can be so many different conversations.
Right.
And your 30-minute, which is being very
Oh, wink, wink on 30
yeah,
minutes.
30
Let's be
minutes
honest. Yeah.
appointment is not going to, I mean, even in a 30-minute coaching session where that's all
Right.
we're there for is to talking about it, that can be a huge goal to try to unfold, right? That's why
Right.
multiple coaching sessions are usually needed.
Right.
And so it's just really interesting that we don't have more solutions, especially when you said, that women's sexual health is complicated. Yeah, so we should have far more funding and
Exactly.
resources to unfold this complication and find these specialties that work in all the different areas. And so,
100%. 100%. And, so I like have a philosophical, of course, approach to this, which is I think historically, like women's sexuality has really been viewed as, you know, a function of our partner's pleasure, men's pleasure, right? So like is that present? Okay, if it is, check. And then also just through a reproductive lens, and so those are the things that you see addressed, right? The rest of it, is it pleasurable? Is it fun? Do we desire it? Like all of those questions have been completely left in the dark because historically it didn't matter. And so I think really that's why we're seeing, things starting to change in the past, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years, where we weren't having any of these conversations before then, but we were for men, right? So I think that as women continue to speak up, we continue to have conversations like this, and we continue to demand broader research into the things that are going on, with our health concerns as well, that hopefully those issues will continue to mature, and we will have, more and more tools in the toolbox to help unpack, some of these really common issues. 43% of women say that they have a sexual, challenge that they want to work on. And that's, to me, that's a low number, but that's what's in the data. So that's what I'll share. But I mean, that's nearly half of
That's
women.
willing to admit that they have defined a problem.
Right. I mean, so it's like, how in the world are we just going about our daily lives not talking about these things? So anyway, I'm so glad that you are, and can't wait for everybody to be talking about it in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be shouting out the door, hey neighbor, how's your sexual health?
Exactly. Safe place to talk about it. Yeah.
It's going to be more commonplace with more conversations like this. It's not scary. It's not gimmicky, or, it's just people wanting to help people. The same reason, I went into the background I did, as I just wanted to support folks finding an answer that wasn't maybe as apparent as we thought. Coaching is very much, let's find the answer that works for you, not the one that the books tell us is the answer. Because you can go read the book, right?
Totally. And I think sexual health, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think sexual health is a lot like mental health, right? There's a lot of stigma that exists. There's not enough language. There's not enough conversation. There's not enough support from like decision makers who make, financial decisions in healthcare. And so if we look at like how that's trended over the past decade, 10 to 15 years, my hope is that if we can continue to push this issue into a general awareness, that we can make the same progress with sexual health as well.
Love that. And it's really easy to compare those two, because we have seen that in many of our lifetimes, that stigma change, right? That paradigm shift around, there's far more resources. It's far more in everyday conversation. You still have your outliers, right?
Sure.
But that is an easy way to follow. Like, thank you, mental health, for paving the way for our sexual health, right?
Totally.
So we can list all day all of our peeves and all of the frustrations. I mean, it is good to understand why we're having this conversation, but also that we're not just here to whine and complain. There are some solutions, and that has, those frustrations were your catalyst for a creative solution. So tell us a little bit more about your solution.
Yeah. So, we were talking before, I became a fellow of a medical society called ISWISH, which stands for the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health. And really their whole body of work is related to, evidence-based interventions for sexual health problems. And so as I'm sitting in all these lectures, like learning how to be a sex medicine specialist, I'm like, man, a lot of this, 80% of this is all about education and behavioral interventions and support, and that's not like the best place for that is not in a doctor's office, right? Because our time is very limited, and there's a lot of education that we are missing just because no one's teaching us. People don't even know evidence-based sex education. And so I was thinking, if we know that education improves sexual health, and there's data to support that. If we know that these behavioral interventions, for example, reading Erotica, can improve women's sexual health, that's very exciting. And if we know that the support of a peer community, and eventually now we've added coaching, can also support that journey, then why can't we do that at scale, right? For not only just in a clinic here in Dallas where I'm seeing however many 20 patients a day, like, is there a way to do this for, women across the country, potentially women across the world, where we can really take them out of this place of shame and isolation that they might be feeling about a sexual problem that's so common, but nobody realizes that because they don't talk about it, right? And this is what was happening in my office, and I'm sure what happens for you is that it's literally patient after patient after patient. They all have similar or the same sexual health problems, but I'm not allowed to tell them that all of them have the same problems. And I can't introduce them. We can't all sit down and say, look how normal we all look. that we're not weird. You know what I mean? Like, because each of them feels totally isolated, alone, embarrassed. And the fact that there's no, common discussion about this in the media, in society, and with their doctors really makes them feel even more isolated and alone, right? So if they come to the physician and they say, hey, I don't have, I've lost my orgasm. And the doctor's like, oh, like, silence, like, I don't know what to do about that, then that compounds the shame that person feels because their doctor doesn't even know what to do. Like,
This
they're
is a
so weird.
specialist. Yeah, this
Exactly.
is someone who went years of medical school and then can't fix me.
And then
oh, no.
can't fix me. Oh no, I'm weirder than I thought, And so really what the idea for Rosy was to take every sort of evidence-based avenue. So when we first launched, that's education, behavioral interventions, and erotica, put them on a platform and just say, hey, everybody, 43% of women have a sexual challenge. Like, let's learn together, And so I recorded a ton of the content by myself at the beginning, but then as sort of word got out, we started to amass, sexual health experts from across the country, from sex therapists, pelvic floor physical therapists. We have trauma therapists on the platform. We have, a lot of body image, people who work specifically on body image. We have resources for trans women. So it's really grown into something else bigger and better and like way cooler than I could have ever imagined. And that's because our users have been so enthusiastic. Whenever we first launched, we had a large group of breast cancer survivors that reached out and they were like, oh my gosh, like one of them particularly sent us an email and she was like, I was diagnosed with breast cancer 30 years ago. And this is literally the first time anyone's ever talked to me about my sexual health. And it's like on our platform, and it's just like, man, the fact that 30 years have gone by and you've had vaginal dryness and, body image issues because you don't have breasts and you were sent into medical menopause because of your diagnosis. And no one's literally ever mentioned to you anything, how that might have an effect on your sexuality, So we've really grown because of our users and because of the need and thirst and demand for these resources.
Dang it.
Yeah, we're thirsty. Exactly. Everyone's thirsty. Men, women, everybody. We all want to know what's going on, what's behind the curtain. And that's what I think you do such a good job of, is that curiosity, because people do really want to know. And there's nothing wrong with talking about it or asking the questions or getting the answers, And I think once people realize that, it's so empowering, and really allows them to kind of take charge of that piece of their lives.
Mm-hmm. So this is an app that you can download on your phone.
Yes.
I was looking at it. There's different tiers on there. There's different services on there, but a big piece is that community and education.
Absolutely.
And so I love that because I can join a Facebook group anytime I want, right?
Sure.
But how do I know who's giving me advice on there is going to actually help me? Usually that's I like to equate Facebook groups to, the ladies around the table with a glass of wine and just bitching about their husbands that night.
Totally.
Like, let me tell you another thing.
Right.
And which, on your psyche can actually really drag you down. So being solution-based and evidence-based is really what I love. And so, like, this is quality. It's not just another blog, which are great to start the conversation. This is where you can keep coming back for more and knowing that it's going to guide you to the solutions and not just more questions. Well, probably more questions, honestly.
Yeah, but that's okay.
You start peeking and then you're like, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. Oh my goodness. Like all these and just more and more questions, right? Probably why I'll never run out of content for this podcast.
I don't think we ever will run out of content for sure. Yeah. And so when so everybody can download the app in the App Store for free. It's called Rosy, Rosy. And you can interact with all of the digital content for the first week completely for free. So everybody can just like see. And the idea is really like that the name Rosy, the idea behind Rosy is that she represents like a trusted expert that you also want to have a drink with, so we're trying to meet somewhere in the middle. Like we want to be approachable. We want to be trustworthy. We want to be curated so that you're not like, do I appreciate that this is going to actually help me or not? And we really try to talk about, just like you might in a physician's office, like, hey, here's the, 4 over-the-counter supplements, and here's what the studies show about all of them. You know what I mean? There's no like one magic pill that everyone's going to take to make everything better, but here's the risks and the benefits, and here's maybe something you might want to try or not. Like, you can decide if you want to spend your money on this or not. So we're not, selling products and things like that. So it is a subscription based. And the first level is all the content, which includes a personalized wellness plan, which means like if you come on the platform and you're, say, 30 and you have a partner, you're caring for aging parents, and you have, 2 toddlers, and you might be having sexual pain, struggling with depression, and you were raised in a, conservative Christian background, you're going to have a completely different experience than someone who's menopausal, whose partner is having sexual problems as well, and who is having sexual pain due to menopause, right? So we have a whole entire content plan for each specific scenario based on how you onboard. And we really try to respect everybody's context. I do not want all women to offboard off of Rosy and come out and be, the same exact carbon copy, liberated, empowered, sexually free woman. I want you to live your best life in your exact context that makes you happy, right? And so we're not trying to change everybody to look the same. We're trying to just empower everyone in their own situation to get the resources they need and to really appreciate their body and its function and its role in sexuality. And so I love, that we're able to do that through digital product. And then as I mentioned earlier, we also offer coaching both in the group format, which I think is super powerful, especially for this topic or these topics, and then also in the individual formats as well.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And of course, I'm always going to be like, coaching is so great
Coaching!
and wonderful.
I love coaching too. So I'm with you on the coaching train.
Yeah. It's just being able to offer that. And, it sounds like there's a lot of autonomy in how someone interacts with the app. It's not this one size fits all.
Right.
A lot of opportunity to pick and choose what in this moment would be meaningful for me. Because sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I signed up for, as a wellness coach, I still need another wellness coach. Like, I still need a coach.
I have a coach. Yeah, we all need coaches, right? Yeah.
Signed up and was like, I am so overwhelmed with all of the pings and dings and like, I had all the bells and whistles. It was a wonderful application, but it was just too much too soon. And I was like, I really wanted to dip my toes in this. And so just being careful for myself, because I know my curious brain wants to know all the information right away. But you have to pace yourself. And so it really sounds like with those different tiers, choose what works for you. And I love that just it's free for a little bit. Find out if that's what you're needing right now. Do you need that community support? Are you wanting more education? Combination of all of those. So I'm on the website right now, meetrosy.com, and just seeing some of the things that's here. And really, these are so many of the topics that get brought up in some of my coaching sessions as well. And the first one listed is body image. Like, yes, that affects your sexual wellness. But I mean, even low sexual desire, sex pain, pleasure and education, depression, anxiety, hormone change. We have no control over these. Oh my gosh. I wish it was just a thermostat that I could be like, okay, cool. Let's get rid of all those hormones and then go back
and get the good ones. I know.
It just surprises you and likes to just dip and change. And and just not even knowing how much those control so many things. And so it's extremely frustrating knowing what's kind of happening, but having no control over it. So it's nice to have that education, but also that intervention piece as well. Like,
absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you. And another like super fun and actually really efficacious piece of the platform is our library of erotica, which is like super fun to
Yes,
talk
tell me
about
more
because
about that.
as I've already said, I'm a doctor, and that I'm like always talking about sexual health, and then I'm like, and also erotica, and everyone's like, wait, that's kind of out of left field. But the reason that it's in the platform is because we have really like a lot of separate studies to show that actually erotica improves sexual desire statistically significantly. So improves lubrication, improves orgasm. And so I'm like, well, we're not going to make a platform that doesn't have erotica on it. And when we first launched, I had no idea, but we actually had a group of my old patients be our like first testers. And one of them whom I love dearly to this day, we've been through so much together. I've been like a part of her story and just love she and her family so much. But she came to me and she was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. But also erotica makes me feel like I am cheating on my partner. And she was like almost in tears. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like the last thing I ever meant to do was like offend you or like ask you to do something that made you feel so terribly uncomfortable. I am so sorry. And so that interaction with that particular patient really informed so much of the product for us. And so the way that we introduce erotica to our users is erotica as a prescription. Like if you have a sexual health goal, like erotica doesn't have to be like dirty and seedy and mean that you want a different partner, right? It can be fantasy, and fantasy is separate from reality. And so there's a lot of education around that. And then we also allow our users to really tightly control our what we call spice levels. So we have a one flame where it's like the Notebook, literally like they go off into another room and like yada yada yada. You're not getting them a lot of explicit stuff, all the way to three
The
flames
kissing
where
stops and then they wake up the next morning, right?
exactly. And then all the way to three flames where we'll get into everything, whatever you want to know. And then there's 9 different genres. So people can kind of, it gives people who wouldn't normally explore erotica the opportunity to do so in a really like safe and confined way where they can really control the experience. And there's so much education around it, as I mentioned, where we talk about fantasy and how it's okay to explore without changing, your specific definition of yourself or your sexuality. And this can all happen in a safe place where there's no transactional record and there's no, no one else, you're not like carrying a book around with you.
That's
Things
exactly
like
what I was
that.
thinking.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's
exactly.
this app and it's not even like erotica titled app. It's Rosy. Like nothing that even if my kids were playing around on my phone, they're like, what's this? It's more of like, oh, one of those other dumb apps that I don't want to go. But it's great to have that. Safety is a huge piece. What if I am curious, but if I start going down, I can't control some of that. And it's all of a sudden where it is a flood that I wasn't prepared for, really makes more shame and more fear around my curiosity because I couldn't turn on that faucet, slowly. It was just like floodgates. And that is so wonderful. I mean, there's so many benefits, right, to erotica and just exploring and having it that like prescription. I love just gives you permission it's okay to explore. And the science behind it really does back, because many of us could probably have grown up with varying messages that are telling us very different things.
Absolutely.
Maybe that it's terrible, bad, or wrong. And so when you are exploring, it's like I'm terrible and bad and wrong, and I'm going to go on the really dark side of the internet. And now I'm this really dirty person instead of being like, it's okay. This is part of me and my doctor says so.
She told me to do
it. It's so important. I mean, I've read so many studies with therapists and introducing erotica and even, certain genres of porn and other things and how it can benefit. There is a slippery slope. And so I love that you can control that. And it's safety measures, right? It's really like, this isn't our gateway to all of these other things. But we're giving you permission to explore, and just get curious too.
There we go.
Because if I
Exactly.
didn't read something, how would I know I liked it if I've never actually tried it? So it's a safe way to experiment, just like you were saying. It does help with all of those and spice level and just even spicing stuff up because now you have more things in your imagination or more things to work
Right.
with if you maybe have a limited background on that exposure. So it's really wonderful. Love that.
Oh, yay. Yeah, we talk a lot in the context of erotica about something called responsive desire, which is what so many women who, say that they have low desire actually experiencing. And it's like a very normal expression, right? And so what that means is that, you might not just be like at work typing on your computer and automatically have like a sex thought, right? Oh, I want to have sex like right now or tonight or whatever. But that when you're confronted, which is not the best word, but when you're exposed maybe to a sexual cue like erotica or like, the beginning of a sexual encounter with your partner or with yourself, that then
Mhm.
the arousal that happens in your body as a response to that really kicks your brain off to say, hey, actually, I do feel like having sex. I do feel desire for, you know, to have an orgasm or to have an intimacy, excursion. And so a lot of women can use erotica in that way. So if they're experiencing low desire, that's really when we talk about, okay, well, you can take control of the situation by number one, if you want to, scheduling sex, and number two, using erotica as a tool before that scheduled sex to really get that responsive desire pathway kicked off. And I mean that like idea, which I'm sure you talk about in coaching, is literally like life changing and can be
Mhm.
all that people need when at first maybe they're looking for a prescription or they're looking for a diagnosis or something like that. And it's like, well, man, you're actually really normal. And here's some tools to like help support that really, common pathway. So we love to kind of educate on that as well.
Oh, love that. And it's kind of that sugar that makes the medicine go down a little bit,
Yeah.
right? It balances that medical side a little bit more, having a lot of fun, but obviously evidence-based. We know
Right.
what we're doing. This isn't just let's just sprinkle some sugar on there. But
Yeah.
it's much better than this exact prescription too, right?
Right.
Like this is your step, this is your step. It's more of like go explore, have some
Right.
fun. You have a lot of control. I mean, it is a huge piece. I think I would love to see change in the medical community as more autonomy. And so
Hmm.
just having that autonomy within the app and even within that section of that, I love,
Right.
like,
Oh,
huge
yay.
proponent of that, right?
Yay.
And I didn't just come on here to tell you all the things that I love about Rosy,
Hey, I'm okay with
but
that. I'm okay with that, Mariah. So thank you.
we did talk about how our missions, were started because of the same types of conversations. There just wasn't those resources out there. So we've had these same kind of blockers with a lot of conversations and just, I hated feeling powerless. I have
Yeah.
nothing to give you. I go explore. I mean, we can explore safely and I can try to kind of guide that, but I don't even know what quality resources are out there right now.
Right.
And that's scary I mean, now as a podcast, my whole internet, browser and history is quite different.
I'm
But
sure.
knowing how to find those resources, those quality resources is very difficult in the world of sexuality, especially when we have red tape and other things that you can't talk about these things on social media. You'll get,
Right.
blocked here. We still have varying um, viewpoints in education and especially public education. And so that's a battle that's,
Hmm.
I mean, that's a war that's only won
Yeah.
with tiny little battles, right? Like we're just arming ourselves more with these little things, but
Right.
it is frustrating. And so knowing that there's an app out there can be in your pocket. Um, so tell me maybe some of the hurdles with launching this app
Yeah.
and even, we talked a little bit about it because research, usually there's a lot of big research gaps out there already because of
Right.
women in general. But what are some other things that you would just love to see the world change?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, where do we begin? I would say the some biggest personal hurdles for me are that I am a physician. I had zero as of, a few years ago technology background. So that was interesting to navigate. And then there also the other piece has been the funding. Like when you come into the startup world, and you have an idea, there's a huge market. There's some interesting challenges that lay ahead, right? If you are in California and Silicon Valley, if you're in New York, I'm in Texas. Sexual health isn't that popular here. You might be surprised. But so I really was very, I would say, apprehensive about raising that first round of funding, just because number one, I had never done it before. Number two, I'm raising for like a women's sexual health company, and none other before we launched like ours existed. And so there was just a lot of question about, was that going to be successful? Was this something that I was going to be able to do? And I'm sure that you've had the exact same experience where it feels intimidating to start these conversations at the beginning of your sort of lifespan as a person who focuses on sex. But what you quickly find out is that everybody wants to talk about it. Like literally
Yes.
everybody wants to talk about it. And so that is the coolest part, is it's like there needs to be a fire starter. You know what I mean? There needs to be somebody to get it going. And once it's going, people are like, blah, 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 like waterfall of tears or information or questions. And that is the most rewarding, because it's like all of this uncertainty, all of these questions and shame, once again, have been built up for many times decades in these people, and no one's ever started that conversation. So I'm talking about conversations with potential investors, presentations at conferences, like everywhere you go, like everyone has the same personal story. And so I think that whatever apprehension there was quickly erased, because it just is such a, definitely widespread, fundamental, deeply held piece of who we all are. And the fact that there's not any more conversation about it than there is really makes us, once again, I'll use our word of the night, thirsty for anyone who's willing to kind of talk about it. So that was a perceived hurdle that, fundraising is never easy, but I wasn't met with like a bunch of hate and a bunch of, like naysayers. Everyone's like, yeah, this is a huge deal. Like, let's see how we can help, so that was super cool. And then it's never like trying to get a startup off on its feet is never an easy job. So there's always challenges, but I would say the things that I love the most are my team. Like I have the most amazing team. Literally, we have the best working relationship with one another. And then the women that we serve. Like honestly, it couldn't get any better. So for all the hurdles, there are way many more, wonderful bright spots that keep us going every day for sure.
I love that. Just knowing that you even have your own hesitations bringing this up,
sure.
right? Like, how am I going to talk about this and ask for money now with it?
Yeah.
Now I'm tying sex with money. This wasn't the way I saw my life. But what would you hope for the future for the app, or just even conversations?
Really what I want, and what I will be damned if it doesn't happen in my life, is that sexual health moves into the general health conversation for women, right? Like I think we've done a decent job. I'll give us like a C at doing that for men, but we've failed completely. Like they were not even on the radar at doing that for women. And I just think it's such a glaring oversight that, I really want to see that. So along with that, I want all physicians to be trained to talk to women about their sexual health issues. I want all of this nonsense that's happening on all of these, ads being banned to go away, because we appreciate that we're talking about healthcare issues. The first time that ever happened to me, I was so irate. Like I just was very naive. I was like, I'm a doctor. Like these are medical problems. What do you mean we're going to get banned? Like that was a long time ago at this point, but it's so mind blowing. You know what I mean? That you can't talk about a healthcare issue. And then that also means that there, once again, to our, prior conversation, that there's been dollars poured into research. There's been dollars poured into development. And hopefully that Rosy's sort of leading the way on all fronts in that conversation. So doctors know that they can refer their patients to Rosy. Women know that they can trust Rosy to get access to the resources that they need. And we're positioned squarely within healthcare, not as some lifestyle, situation or some like nice to have, but right in the middle of the women's health experience, just like you would expect and hope, which we still have a long way to go for these issues too, but pregnancy and menopause and infertility, like sexual health needs to be on par with all of those issues for women as well.
Mm-hmm. Just knowing like the topics of like healthy people, I was like, where's the
Yeah,
sexual? There's family planning
totally.
and like STI,
Right.
but I was like,
STIs.
this isn't what we want. And so just even talking about the wellness wheel with clients, we have our financial wellness, your social wellness, mental, all of this. I have added sexual wellness as its whole
Amazing.
pie, piece of pie. And we, talk about it and bring it up no matter what, even if they didn't come in my doors for that, because
I love that.
it is part of you as a whole. And you can't, you can't deny it. Like it is a
Exactly.
piece of our, goes into both mental and physical and social and all of these places that it's been these weird dark corners for way too long. And I'm done with that.
I am done. I am with you. Yes. Let's make sexual health a piece of the pie, at least for sure.
Yes. Anything that really surprised you on this journey that you were like, I wasn't ready for that? I know you kind of said the conversation that you were ready for, and then was like, oh, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But just anything else surprised you?
Yeah. I would say that there's been a few of those conversations. Definitely the one with my former patient who was offended by the erotica. I think I realized a lot coming into this how important it is to just listen. You know what I mean? Because there's so many things, especially as a physician, where you're like, well, A plus B equals C. What about it? You know what I mean? And it's like that's actually zero people's healthcare journey or mental health journey or sexual health journey. Like, so it's really, I love that piece of it too, because like my favorite thing in the world to do is just to connect with other people. And the opportunity to connect through listening about people's different contexts, I think is really such an important piece of this for me. So I would say that I hope that that's carried through in my interaction, with when I talk to other people about their sexual health issues, but also in the product itself, about how truly like individual each person's sexuality, sexual health journey, sexual sort of life, experience is, and how that is something to be celebrated and not try to place it in a box or on an algorithm or anything else. So I don't know that necessarily, I wasn't shocked, but I've learned so much that's congruent with that sort of approach that has been really affirming for, that entire journey.
It's so much fun to learn as you
It is.
build and just being able to be like, there's this whole world I didn't get to see. I knew there was a problem, but then,
Right.
Solving for it and just going on that journey. It's just really, really fun for myself. That's why I've done a lot of what I do, but being able to just see that in app development and conversations
Totally.
with the community and other people out there, even for funding. Um, you know, I was listening when you were saying this is a conversation a lot of people want to have. This is
Yeah.
something we want to have. So I was just going to say everyone needs to hurry and go download the app. So then when Lyndsey's trying to go get funding, she can be like, this is how many people are
That's
asking
right.
for this. Like so many. This is the huge population that really needs this stuff. We need your money. Because that would just be a wonderful thing that it just automatically comes with healthcare. Oh, how
Absolutely.
cool.
I know. How cool would that be? And that's the thing. So it's really interesting, like in this part of healthcare, because, insurers don't pay for women's sexual health, right? Employers surely don't pay for women's sexual health. So we have had to go directly to the consumer and say, hey, we know you want this. Like, do you mind to give us $10 a month? So we're really trying to prove through that financial relationship and also through a lot of the research that we do that this is like a really important piece. So that's actually a big part of my job, is to say, hey, like look at what all of these consumers are saying about what we're doing. Look at how it's changing their lives. Look at how it affects these other part of their lives that you do care about, like their mental health and their overall quality of life and their other healthcare outcomes, the number of times they go to the physician, like all these things. So we're really trying to really connect those dots for those other stakeholders, insurers, employers, healthcare organizations who pay for those things for us generally, so that in the future, hopefully we are not having to pay for this stuff out of pocket. And so that's my big work, and that's our company's big work. And as I mentioned earlier, but to really position it as part of regular healthcare that should already be paid for. So our goal really is for people to never pay another dollar for Rosy, but there are, quite a few steps between today and that happening. And it involves, once again, interaction and research, which we love. We are, publishing and sharing research on the back end all the time. So something that's super important to us.
Well, just getting, category 3 billing codes for health and wellness coaching approved was a huge thing, right? I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting there. Like, how fun would it be? I could submit my app and I get reimbursed. Like, I get to submit for my insurance plan, how many times I go to the gym and I get a kickback. So and they pay for my gym membership. I'm like, I want that. Pay for my wellness apps, please. Thank you.
Totally. Exactly. Because that does go so much further, especially if we talk about moving from like a sickness model to a wellness model in healthcare, like that. Exactly. Those are the shifts we need to see for sure.
Yes. I love that. And I will fight that fight right next to you. So you just call me up and I'll be out there picketing with you, but
amazing.
Really, I love the creativity of how you solved something that came up for you. And there are so many other doctors, there's so many other people having these conversations and then let it end there. So for you to go out and go find that solution and give a huge piece of your energy and creativity and a lot of the unknown, and I'm sure a lot of worries along the way.
For sure. And
just
still,
thank you for that. That's
thank
really
you.
Awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And honestly, like, it's given so much back to me in terms of how it's enriched my life and my journey and my professional career, that I would not change it for anything in the whole world. But it was probably the hardest decision that I've ever made, to leave practice. I had a practice full of pregnant people. Like, that was really tough. But I'm so thankful for the opportunity. And honestly, like, looking back, I really just felt obligated because there was nobody doing anything. I'm like, it was at the time, 2018, 2019. Like, what is happening in the world that no one's already done this? Like, surely this has already happened, and it hadn't. And so I just felt like it probably wasn't going to, so, but it's been my dog, but it's been such a cool journey. And like I said earlier, I love connecting with people like you who are so passionate about it. And that just makes all the difference in the world. So thanks for your support and your kind words.
Well, thank you so much for your time and coming on here, telling us about that whole journey. And really, if anyone is interested, where can they find more information about Rosy or about yourself, about the journey? How can they get involved if they want to?
Yes.
Give us all
Love it. Please. Okay. So our website is meetrosy, meetrosy.com. Our Instagram is at meet_Rosy. And then the app is available in either app store in the United States and in Canada under just search Rosy, ROSY, and it should pop right up. So we would love for y'all to check it out. We are always wanting to be better, to improve. So any feedback that you have, we take it seriously. We read all feedback as a team every week. And we want to grow with our users. We want to know what people need and how we can do better. So please share any and all feedback with us, and we'd love to have you as part of our community.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And for everyone listening, thank you again for tuning in and slowly taking those steps to minimize that fear and stigma around sex and sexuality. We pride ourselves on being ad-free. So if you want to support the podcast, please go to patreon.com/saltysexcast. And for as low as $5 a month, that really continues our message to stay ad-free, as well as you get free content and early access to episodes and just our community as well. So we have monthly QAs that live on Zoom. It's super fun. But if you have any questions or want to just know more about the podcast, you can find us at saltysexcast.com. Hope everyone has a great week and see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Salty Sex Cast. Ready for round 2? Find us on Facebook.